sim races from around the globe, honoring a revolutionary era of open-wheel racing. With a beast not easily tamed, roaring around legendary circuits at breakneck speed. When engineers and drivers push boundaries, sometimes too far. When heroes muscled roaring beasts wheel to wheel around the hallowed ground. A time when the only driver aids were his 2 feet, the perfect combination of man, machine, and speed. Experience the competition and the glory of early 80s IndyCar action. The Lionheart Retro Series presented by Next Level Racing starts now. For the second race in a row, the Lionheart Retro Series heads to pastures new. After a crazy race at Brands Hatch, the Lotus 79s head back over the Atlantic to land in the heart of America. A 1.3-mile concrete surface awaits where tires will be shredded and pit stop strategy will be vital. Welcome to the Music City and welcome to the Xtreme Scoring Nashville 150 presented by MOZA Racing. Hello and welcome back to RaceSpotTV and coverage of the 2022 Lionheart Retro Series. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, delighted to be joined by DJ Clark, who I've now managed to meet in the real world when we headed to Indianapolis just this past weekend. We're looking forward to our trip to Indianapolis in the Retro Series in a couple of weeks' time, where we saw a 4-wide crazy finish 12 months ago. But today, it's full focus on the Nashville Super Speedway. And with that said, let's dive straight into our next level racing pre-race show, because DJ, the IndyCar Series came to Nashville a couple of weeks ago. It's fair to say it wasn't the best race. It's a difficult track to pass at, but with these tires, these bias ply tires that we've been talking about all season, they're designed to go a full race distance. We're not expecting that here today.
No, we certainly aren't, Arjuna, and looking at the fuel strategy coming into the race, probably at minimum a 2-stop race, breaking this up into 3 stints, and I really anticipate drivers at most double stinting the tires, and when you get to the end of the run on that double stint, the things are going to get very, very loose, very slippery, and drivers are going to have a whole handful on their hands.
We're almost halfway done with the season. It's been crazy. It started off pretty frantic with 3 races in the month of March. It slowed down since then. It's been a couple of weeks since we were last underway. It'll be a couple more weeks to the end of June before the second of our Triple Crown races, and really the second half of the season is going to give an opportunity for drivers to calm down, although you will note the 2 doubleheader weekends that will come up very soon at the end of the season. The doubleheader at Motegi, and then from the circuit Gilles Villeneuve down south to the Worldwide Technology Raceway. It's going to be fun. It's going to be enthralling. Let's talk to you then about these Next Level Racing driver standings, because the big storyline is your points leader is missing from today's action. But in an 18-round championship, you don't expect drivers to be consistently at the front. That's why we have the drop weeks, which will play a major factor. We'll talk more about those as we get into the final stages of this championship. But what a season we've had so far. It's really close, and you could go anywhere down to maybe even 6th position to find a potential champion when we get to the end of 2022.
Yeah, you certainly could, and I think one of the biggest surprises here is the third-place driver, David Sirois, who has really put in a great performance. We know those Raven Lavoie Motorsports drivers, very, very good on the road, but we've seen Sirois be able to come in and really put down some fantastic runs on the ovals as well, and that's part of the reason he's sitting up there in third.
Graphics LC Motorsport started this championship 1, 2, and 3 at the dramatic season opener in the Sunshine State, but since then, things have trended in the direction of MadWorks Motorsports, and that's why when you look at these HyperX team standings, they have a 100-point lead over that Graphics LC team. DJ talked about the Raven Lavoie Motorsports bunch as well. They're in the mix. We came into 2021 expecting them to be strong on the road courses, but they have shown up on the ovals in the past 6 or so months. Backfire Motorsports debutants in this championship. have really been one to watch as well. The midfield is chock-a-block of action all the way down to the independent drivers who are grouped together apparently for 23 points to their name. Let's talk to you then about the rookie class, and it's a big rookie class. This is one of the entry points to the Lionheart Racing Series, with all the drivers trying to achieve a roster spot in the Lionheart IndyCar Series, but it's David Rodriguez that leads here. Jim Herrick, our winner at Pocono in the first of our Triple Crown second, and then you find those three Backfire Motorsports machines. It's going to be difficult for them though, because both Cristobal Valenzuela and Rodrigo Munoz have end-of-line penalties today, DJ, and this is not a track where you want to be starting at the back.
No, you really don't. It is a track where it's a little bit difficult to pass. It tends to be pretty low-line dominant around here. You're able to carry some decent speed up around the high side, but not nearly enough to be able to get a pass done. So I think track position is going to be very, very key. And for Valenzuela and Munoz, they're going to find themselves in a world of hurt having to start from the back of the field.
Let's talk to you about your Gomez Sim Industries Series details for the 6th season of the Lionheart Retro Series. It's year 9 of the Lionheart Racing Series. We've branched out since year 1. We've gone from just an IndyCar Series to a Retro Series, and most recently the addition of the Speedway Series as well. We're campaigning in these Lotus 79s, Formula 1 beasts, which have really shown that they're at home on the ovals as well. They're all driving a custom fix setup. The only in-car adjustments, your 2 hands, your 2 feet. Drivers are fighting for their share of $7,000 in cash and prize. For the champion of the series, they'll win a Next Level Racing GT Track cockpit courtesy of our title sponsors in the form of Next Level Racing. They'll also win a MOZA Racing direct drive wheelbase and Formula steering wheel. We're coming up on that second Triple Crown. We know we're going to have a new series champion because Aaron Morgan is on a part-time schedule. We've only seen him a couple of times this season. And with the Avatar Order Racing team breaking up, with 2 drivers going to Madworks Motorsports and Aaron Morgan stepping back in this competition, we're looking like we're going to have a new team champion as well. A look up above from this Nashville Super Speedway as we listen to the roar of the engines. We were talking before we went live, DJ. We're expecting this to be a paint the white line sort of race. However, with the tires wearing, it's going to be difficult to stay down low. Track conditions will play their factor as well. You can see these drivers in practice sticking very close to one another.
Yeah, it's sticking very close. It's a relatively easy lap to be able to take out around here completely flat out, and so that is going to present a little bit of pack racing as we see that big pack coming across the start-finish line right there, trying to see what they can go with and be able to get themselves around here, fanning out a little bit. You see one of those Raven Laval Motorsports drivers working their way around, trying to feel where that grip is, but the low line, as you said, Arjuna, that's going to be key. Whoever can keep down on it and not, crucially, run into that little bit of asphalt that is the apron, those are going to be the drivers that are going to be most successful.
Let's talk about these track conditions because it's relatively warm, not much wind to speak of. That's been something we've talked about a lot through the course of these oval races in this Lionheart Retro Series, but 83 degrees Fahrenheit in the air, 118 Fahrenheit on the track itself, which equates to just under 50 degrees Celsius. It is boiling here in the Music City.
It is, and with this concrete surface, that is especially going to play havoc on these bias ply tires. We talked about the fact that we do anticipate that you are probably going to have to make a pit stop over the course of the race to get a new set of tires on here. It's really going to throw up a big, big wrench in the works for all of these drivers, I think.
We'll see some of these action moves through the race as well. This is a relatively small pack when you consider how they're going. We're looking at Will Gibson trying to find a way past. In front of him, Ricky Hardin, who's currently top of the practice times with a 25.961, almost a full 10th clear of the next driver in queue. But we know what qualifying is going to be like here, DJ. We're not expecting it to be that big of a gulf when we get down to go fast time.
No, it's going to be very, very close to be able to get across the board, and watch for some drivers maybe cheating a little bit across that apron there. That is allowed in qualifying, coming across the start-finish line to try to gain a little bit of time there. I think you are going to see some very, very infinitesimal gaps as they go into queue.
31 cars lined up for this inaugural race at the Nashville Super Speedway for this Lionheart Retro Series. Remember as well, we mentioned that history with the Lionheart IndyCar Series coming here a couple of weeks ago. Will we be in for a similar sort of a race? The thing to remember as well when we get down to the pit stop cycles is drivers are required to come down to pit lane using the access road on the entry into turn number 3. Pit stops during cautions will be slightly different, but we're expecting and hoping that these drivers will put on a show for us once more. The time ticks down. We are ready to go qualifying here at the Nashville Super Speedway. Put 5 minutes on the clock, 2 laps for each of our drivers, and they get the track to themselves. Finding the right line and executing with these track conditions, with these warm track temperatures, are going to be vital. I'm very curious, DJ, is lap 1 or lap 2 the fastest lap?
I'm going to think that lap 2 is going to be just as courtesy of how short of a lap around here it is. The way the gearing is set in these Lotus 79s, it takes a minute to get them up to full tilt. So I'm going to think that that second lap is going to be the money lap, but you're not going to want to throw anything away on the first lap here. You want to set down a good banker if you can, just in case something happens.
So the first car to be rolling will be David Sirra, who's up there in the championship mix. The 99 for Raven Lavoie Motorsports this year. Look the line that he takes out of turn 4. Up the track, just trying to build the momentum, maybe trying to warm up the tires as well. Not sure why he needs to do that given the track conditions, but I think we're already seeing that sacrifice lap 1. Lap 2 is where the lap time's going to be.
Yeah, it certainly is, and you could see when he was coming out of turn 4, they were almost putting the car into a full power slide, trying to just sort of rub the tires across the track. Now watch him to come out of here. He's going to take the high line coming around to carry maximum momentum, and then watch for him here out of turn 4 to duck down, minimize that distance between point A and point B, cutting onto the apron like I talked about.
Curious to see how the transition from banking to apron is going to look like for all of these drivers, but Sirra looking nice and planted down just about half a car's width up from that inner line as he works his way down the back straightaway for the second and final qualifying attempt. Lap times are coming in. Sirra lost 1.5 seconds trying to build up for lap number 2. 26.37 is the provisional benchmark. It's only a 26.397 for David Sirra. Craig Forsyth, though, with a 26.360 jumps to the top.
That's a good lap there for him as Luke Daniels now able to supplant himself up into P1. Dustin Wardlow, the Candyman, trying to take a little bit of speed on that outside lane, build up the momentum here to get a good lap down.
Will Gibson, 5 races so far, an average starting position of 19th, just inside of the top 20. Is this the race when the trend starts to get reversed? Alex Gouillon ties himself with Bobby Mikes for 7th position. Dustin Wardlow to the line, a 26.797. Not going to be good enough for pole. He's got one more lap to do it. Chris Lanini up to 11th.
Yeah, and we're seeing a little bit of those bankers laps starting to come in. We ride on board with Wardlow here. You see him not necessarily wanting to go down to tickle that line necessarily as much as possible, but really trying to push along here, coming down onto the apron. Let's see if he is going to be able to improve there, and he does up to the top of the charts.
Mike Regnier jumped in front of Will Gibson, but Gibson's still looking very, very good. We've got plenty of cars yet to go. Lanini's up to 2nd. Now we wait for the likes of David Rodriguez to put in a lap time. Tyler Groff puts in his benchmark along with David Rodriguez, Adam Frazier. There's Rodriguez across the line. 16 cars with lap times on the board, still waiting for about 16 more to finalize their first lap time. And often you see in these qualifying sessions that drivers will try and wait till the track cools down slightly. It's not going to be much, but every second, every 10th, every 100th matters. You look at the left side of the screen, 13 cars split by a 10th of a second. Graf up to 3rd for Rodriguez. He's not going to get pole, but he's inside of the top 10.
That's a good run there for David. Remember, David, the fuel-saving master from Iowa, able to take that win last season there. Michael O'Brien here, another one to keep an eye for, taking that high line here on his lap. He is for sure going to be rearing everything up. It looks like here he's not going to be cutting the apron, so I anticipate this first lap here for him being a little bit more together. Here he goes down to the low line.
So the big names still to put lap times down. Matt Taylor, maybe Chris Fowler, Mark Cohn, who returns to us, the winner of 2 Triple Crown races in 2021. Fowler and Cohn both get benchmarks on the board. Ricky Hart and Trevor Malone, others to watch who are working lap 2. Matt Taylor yet to put his benchmark in, but here comes O'Brien to the line. A 26.391 will get him inside of the top 15. Excuse me, he's down in 16th position. That's going to be struggle city for the New Zealand native. Hardin's jumped up the order. We wait wait to see where Mark Cohn's going to end up from 22nd to 2nd. 1,000th splits Dustin Wardlow and Mark Cohn.
We said there were going to be tight, narrow gaps at the top of the field, Arjuna, and we did not disappoint there. Matt Taylor now. Let's see what he's able to do. His best lap of the 27 flat. Is he going to be able to pick anything up here? Comes down onto the apron. Is that number 8 machine going to be able to move its way up the order? Yes, it is, up into 6th.
But Jim Herrick's coming to the line, and with a 26.360, I thought for a second our timing was saying that we were going to blitz the record there, but Jim Herrick, winner at Pocono, up to 13th position. My word, how time flies, but we're ready to go racing here in the Music City. It's time to run you down through the starting grid for the Extreme Scoring Nashville 150, presented by MOZA Racing. Here's a look at the butt kicker starting grid. It's pole position number 4 and 86 starts for the Candyman Dustin Wardlow, who looks to add to the 6 wins he's got to his name. Mark Cohn alongside him on the front row. What a qualifying performance from that 39 machine. 1,000 splits the two of them, while Chris Lanini and Tyler Groff will share row number 2. Mike Rigney and Matt Taylor will line up alongside one another in 5th and 6th championship competitors last year. Will Gibson in the bright red car will be inside of Ricky Harden. Through the top 10, we see George Anzaldo and Luke Daniels 9th and 10th positions, with Adam Young and David Rodriguez right behind them. Rolling from 13th is going to be Jim Herrick alongside the pink and black of Trevor Malone. 15th sees Craig Forsyth roll with Paul Jenkins alongside him, while Richie Hearn is back in 17th alongside Chris Fowler's number 20 Madworks Motorsports car. Alex Guyon, Robert Mikes 19th and 20th, while Michael O'Brien and David Sear are 2nd and 3rd in the championship points. Well, they've got some work to do from the outside of the top 20. Hugo Gallas and Adam Frazier will line up in row number 12, while behind them Lionel Calisto and Rodrigo Munoz will be the first cars with no lap times on the board. Cristobal Valenzuela, Chris Reagan, Brian Hotham, Brett Accord through the top 30, while Gary Godso will be the final car in our field of 31. What a race we've got in store for you, and as always, we've got featured onboards to walk you through. Let's start by talking to you about the MOZA Racing driver on board, which sees it carried by Trevor Malone's number 34. Redefining sim racing. Go further, go faster with MOZA Racing. Visit MOZARacing.com.
Next up, we have the Graphic Esports on board with Tyler Groff. Their Graphic Esports, world-class design from real world to virtual. Visit them at graphicsesports.com.
And then we look to try and find our final of the featured onboards, which will see Michael O'Brien roll with the 45 HyperX onboard. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers, and HyperX is always ready to play. So we'll get a short pace lap before we get underway. DJ, it's prediction time. Who's coming out on top here today?
You know, I've got to look here at the Watchman, Mark Cohn. He qualified well to be up into 2nd place. I think he is going to be one to watch out for. Good to see him back in the series. I think he's going to have a little bit to prove.
Mark Cohn's a good pick, and I tell you what, he's here for some fun. He's here for some vengeance as well on the very much part-time schedule. How many cautions over/under in our first race here at Nashville?
I'm going to go relatively low here. I'm going to say the over-under line is going to be 3.5.
I like the sound of that. We want to keep this race as clean as we can. Competition, commitment, excitement. This is Lionheart, and we're live in the Music City for the first time with the Lotus 79s. Dustin Wardlow has pole position number 4, and he'll bring us to green in the Extreme Scoring Nashville 150 presented by MOZA Racing. It's a nice tidy start at the front of the field, but here comes the ducking and diving. Mark Cohn looks down low as he tries to get to the lead of this race at the Nashville Super Speedway. What can Dustin Wardlow do on the outside? Cohn hits the front.
And that is exactly what I think you're going to see a lot of here today, that sort of crossover move, Arjuna. That is going to be the best way to get by. That is going to put Wardlow up onto the high side. Watch Tyler Groff there behind, trying to see where he can be. He's going to be in a good position, maybe save a little bit of fuel, save a little bit of tires, not be too aggressive here too early.
It's a 150-lap race where the fuel window is about 47, 48 laps. So if we go green, which is a big if, and I'm knocking on the wood next to me, fuel saving might prove to be vital. Tyler Groff's in a great position. Dustin Wardlow looking the long way around on the 39.
Yeah, and there he's able to carry some good momentum up around the high side, clearly able to get it done. He is going to be able to pull that along. It looks like he's going to pull Tyler Groff along with him, so that high line, at least early on, proving very effective.
Matt Taylor stuck down low as Chris Lanini will try and scramble around his outside as they work through turn 1 and 2 for the fourth time this race, 113 laps. If we go green, it is very much going to fly on by. Trevor Malone looking down low on David Rodriguez, and it looks like Cristobal Valenzuela's had some issues. He's back down on pit lane.
Oh, and you hate to see that there. Cristobal obviously having that EOL penalty. A big gaggle of cars there in the back. Everybody weaving this way and that. A lot of speed coming out here early on.
Now, how aggressive do these drivers want to be at this early juncture of the race? You can see it's very much pack racing for the time being. They're side by side for the lead, and it's Tyler Groff looking down low as he tries to force his way to the front. The Candyman can do nothing. Tyler Groff's leading this race.
Yes, he is. That low line starting to come back into prominence here a little bit, but it looks like Wardlow's not going to give it up on him. Looks like he's going to have to slot back into line. Is he going to look for a little bit of that crossover? No, he's going to just keep it up on the high side. Groff tried to block him there a little bit, close the door on that momentum, but too much carried for the Candyman.
But nice and tidy. This is what we like to see at this early point of the race. It could be very much more feisty, nasty, however you want to place it. Will Gibson gets in front of Ricky Harden. A couple of cars have lost some ground on this start. Mike Quigney within the top 10 is down 3 positions as Cristobal Valenzuela, you saw at the bottom of the strut, rolls back out onto the track. He is 3 laps down. We'll see what he can scramble. David Rodriguez trying to look low on Trevor Malone, who almost runs into George Anzaldo.
We'll get a little bit hairy there, and now is the point in the race, I think, where these drivers are going to start thinking about trying to preserve those tires a little bit. Watch for drivers not to necessarily be going down all the way, kissing that apron there, unless they are in wheel-to-wheel battle. I think you're going to want to run about a half a lane up on the track to try to keep the tires in good window, but this is getting very hairy.
3 wide on the run down into turn 3. That's a very sketchy situation. 240 sim racing cars on the outside as Chris Fowler ducks down low, gets nice and tidy through the exit. He'll work his way up into 13th position, hopefully not unlucky number 13. It's very feisty, not just in the mid-pack at the front as well, but Tyler Groff has started to build a bit of separation. 2 tenths between Groff and Wardlow.
And that's exactly what Tyler wants to try to do here. About a second is where you're going to feel that full width of the draft. I think here for Wardlow, he should be able to catch in if he wants to, but the fact that he is just kind of holding that advantage here at about a tenth of a second right now tells me that Wardlow thinking a little bit about saving fuel.
I know you've never raced here at Nashville, but as a former competitor of this series last year, how scary is this sort of racing?
Oh, it is absolutely terrifying. Anytime you are at a 1.5 miles or in this case a 1.3 mile circuit, it is absolutely white-knuckle driving the entire way. You are constantly looking to the side, looking in your relatives, looking all the way around, just kind of hanging on as much as you can. You want to build a rhythm up around here, Arjuna, but it's so hard when you've got this many cars flying around you.
Yeah, I do get the sense that right now you are more holding on for dear life and hoping that you survive to get to the later stages of this race, especially the further back you go, where dirty air doesn't seem to be such a factor as Rodriguez and Forsyth in the 10 and the 53 will duke it out side by side. A couple more fights, Matt Taylor and Will Gibson fighting for 5th position, but as Forsyth slides up the track, Rodriguez has got to be careful.
And that's where you've got to start worrying about that tire wear a little bit as we continue to go along and as we continue to burn fuel over the course of this race. These cars are going to be a little bit more flightier. They're going to want to slide up the track more. You can only hold it down to the inside for so long, Arjuna, before the car is going to fight back on you.
On board with Fowler's number 20. Shown pace this season, but in what seems to be the story of Chris Fowler's Lionheart career, it seems to somehow always find some bad luck as well, but he's in 5th position so far in this championship, only 1 win to speak of. It could have been many, many more. David Rodriguez almost hit the apron, has got very, very loose midway through turn 3 and 4. Let's Craig Forsyth get in front. Here comes Fowler too.
Yeah, they're both going to be trying to push their way along here. And you mentioned brushing up against that apron. That's going to cause the car to get very, very loose, very, very sideways. And this setup that they're running here today, Arjuna.
Caution.
Oh, as we've got a yellow.
And I think it involves a car that was trying to mind their P's and Q's. That's Brian Hotham in the 91 on the exit of turn 1. But we slow things down for the first time. 1 caution so far here at Nashville.
Yes, indeed, and it looks like that car very, very crabby there, so probably a lot of problems here. Let's check out this replay to see exactly what happened. Car contact.
One of the Backfire Motorsports machines, my suspicion is that it would have been Rodrigo Munoz. Maybe Hugo Gallas, not 100% sure, but we'll look from up above and see if we can pick them out. Look rearwards from Hugo Gallas and see it would be Rodrigo Munoz then that comes to blows, and it's just sliding up the track. Not much you can do once you're in that situation for the car on the outside.
No, there's really not a lot at all you can do. You can try to move your way to the outside there, but as I was sort of starting to say, this setup is just a hair on the loose side, and so if you try to move too abruptly in these cars, it's really going to shake you off. As there you can see it coming on in, just a little bit of movement, 1, 2, and that's all she wrote.
It was the Nashville strut up the wall for Brian Hotham, but now do we see some strategy calls? Because, of course, we're in a fuel save race in some regards. Do you come down in? Do you stay on out? Looks like 7 cars or so will stay out. Graf, Lanini, Cone, Gibson, Rodriguez, and Mikes. And then the rest of the cars will shuffle their way down onto pit lane. Don't hate the call to stay out here. We're 16 laps into the run, so not halfway. Don't think we would have seen too many tire takers. However, we talked about the need to fuel save to get to the end. Maybe this helps out those teams and those drivers trying to go long.
Exactly, Arjuna, and I agree with you. I like the decision for these top 7 or so to stay out here. With just as much chaos as we've seen in the mid-pack, I would not be surprised if we see another caution before the end of this first stint. And so that means they'll be able to come in at that point and they'll be able to hold on to track position, although we are seeing it a little bit more racy than we were anticipating. So certainly able to get up and back by if you are the likes of Dustin Wardlow or Matt Taylor, who decided to come on in pit lane.
Now, of course, this is slightly different from the IndyCar series where you have the addition of the fuel maps to be able to save some fuel. No, here it's very much just about the lift and coast, but with the type of racing that we're seeing, lift and coast, not that difficult to execute. The difficulty really does become in terms of positioning your car in the right way so that you don't get swarmed by those behind you.
Yeah, exactly. As we said, it's a pretty much flat-out race around here, and it's all about feathering that throttle, Arjuna. You want to just be careful with how much you lift off. You want to be lifting, I would say, maybe about 10% coming through the corners to just keep in the good line of that driver in front of you, and that should keep you behind them while being able to keep enough pace to keep going up and around.
Thought for a moment that Michael O'Brien may have got an end-of-line penalty. We talk about the lack of fuel maps. There's also no pit lane limiter, so it becomes very easy for drivers to overdrive on pit lane. Gary Godso coming back down to pit road, it would appear, along with Adam Young, Luke Daniels, and Lionel Callisto to try and top off on the fuel. Another call that I don't really mind. It's all about picking your strategy and committing to the one that you find yourselves with. So 6 cars will have yet to come down pit road. Tyler Graf, Chris Lanini, Mark Cohn, Will Gibson, and David Rodriguez. Bobby Mikes the final of the 6 cars. The rest of the cars will have made some pit stop cycles. Brian Hotham and Cristobal Valenzuela no longer on the lead lap, but only Valenzuela is still out there and going. 29 cars in the lead lap. The reality is any one of them with the race that we're seeing still has a chance of winning.
Yeah, they very much do, as we've seen here that hind lane work out relatively well, and we've seen the ability to really slice and dice your way through the field. That is the big story here, I think, early on, is as I talked about, the setup of this car a little bit on the loose side, and that's really allowing for these drivers to just absolutely slide their cars wherever they want them to go.
Of course, next race is a trip to the Brickyard for our second Triple Crown race. DJ, what memories do you have of that absolutely crazy race where we went green for what was almost 75 laps?
Yeah, that was a fantastic run there. I unfortunately was taken out with about 5 or so laps to go, but I absolutely loved running that. It was one of those races where the strategy just came right to me, and I thought I was in for a good shot.
I think that's very much what we're looking forward to again this time around, is the fact that anyone could be in a position to end out on top. Again, survival will very much be the name of the game. The pace car pulls off. The first caution of today's Xtreme scoring Nashville 150 will come to a close, and it's Tyler Graf that gets us back underway. He gets a good jump on Chris Lanini.
Yes, he does. And looking around behind there, then Lanini under a little bit of pressure from Mark Cohn. The Watchman definitely starting to try to press his advantage a little bit as well.
Matt Taylor defending and attacking at the same time as Trevor Malone gets in front of Ricky Harden. Taylor's looking forward on the Candyman. Now we'll wait and see if the cars that took fuel are going to be able to keep up. We talk about this a lot. The heavier the car, the slower you are. The gap between Mikes and Wardlow already up to 1.2 seconds.
And that is not going to be a good thing for those drivers that took fuel here, but rest assured it's going to come back to them later on in the race. Remember, these guys will have to top off here at some point, and if you are the likes of Dustin Wardlow, Trevor Malone, Matt Taylor, what you are hoping for is a long green flag run here where these top 6 will have to come down under green flag conditions. That will be the death knell to their race. One
more caution. I think these drivers have the strategy locked and loaded in terms of being able to make it with one more pit stop to the end of the race, but that is by no means guaranteed. And that gap between cars that took fuel and did not take fuel is up to 1.6. If you're with Dustin Wardlow, maybe the move here is to let Trevor Malone go and see what that 34 car can do. The 6-car fight at the front of the field starts to stretch its legs.
Yeah, it starts to stretch its legs and spread out a little bit here, seeing drivers taking a multitude of lines as they continue to work their way around. A lot of very close quarters racing here as we continue on working lap 22.
And look at those two trains. Bit of a party, a hornet's nest at the front. Not so exciting further back, but it's all about now that the differential and closing the advantage that they're building. I think there may be some lap traffic as well in the form of Cristobal Valenzuela, who doesn't look to be up to speed relative to those in front of him. Lanini gets in front of Gibson. Cohn slides backwards in line. If you are any of those cars maybe further back in that pack, I've got to think maybe David Rodriguez is thinking about fuel saving.
Oh, you know he is. We talked about that miracle run at Iowa just a few minutes ago, and Rodriguez really and truly the master fuel whisperer around here. He is going to be able to ink every last gallon out of that fuel tank.
I still think they're trying to investigate exactly how he made it work. Around the outside will go Chris Lanini on the red and white Mark Cohn car. Tyler Graf continues to lead, and I do think with this strategy, I talk about wanting to fuel save. By the same token, I don't think you want to be leading and punching the hole in the air.
I don't think you do either. You don't really want to be that lead car, because that is the full force of dirty air in front of you, and you're not able to do any of that sort of 10% lifting that I talked about. Tyler here, I think, going for broke a little bit, hoping that we're going to get that other caution before the end of this stint, and he's going to start to run up against it here. He is just absolutely pushing here at this point.
Gap between 6th and 7th has actually stabilized. Last couple of laps, it's come down. 3/10 quicker was Trevor Malone, who is now at the front of the peloton, than David Rodriguez, who is at the tail end of this now single file queue. They do, of course, have Cristobal Valenzuela in between, who is enabling Trevor Malone to get a bit of a toe to close even further. But if we go green from here, we're looking at a 38-minute race. We talked about how quick this race was going to be. There's your indication, about 90 laps in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, very, very quick. 1.3 miles and flat out, as we said, for the most part. A little bit of jockeying there, a little bit of blocking between Gibson and Groff as they get down there. Tyler giving up the lead of the race. I think he was listening to us, Arjuna. He wants to back off a little bit, maybe save some fuel.
Hey, sometimes commentators know what we're talking about. Jim Herrick and Alex Guyon are alongside with Michael O'Brien behind them as Rodriguez will get in front of Mike's in the lead group. Groff jumps back to the front as well. All the fighting means Malone's closing the gaps, very much coming down, but these drivers do need to be a little bit careful. Already half a second back from Richie Hearn in 16th.
Yeah, they do not want to lose touch with that. Now, the good thing that they're going to have working for them is on this shorter track, you're not going to lose all that much time, but if you get that gap over a second, that's where you get into that danger zone. That's where you get into losing that draft altogether.
Looked like it was a car getting very, very squirrely, almost losing control. I would have been behind this pack, so I'd postulate maybe it was Adam Frazier, Brett Accord, but they kept it on the straight and narrow. We stay green for the time being. Malone's closed within 0.6 of a second. The train is coming. Get your panic stations out if you're these leading cars. Although having said that, it's only Trevor Malone that's closed. Dustin Wardlow's been left and Malone's dust.
It almost looks like Dustin is running an alternate strategy here, that he may be trying to do some super fuel saving or maybe some tire saving as it goes along. Trevor just absolutely looking like he has been able to clear all of these guys with ease.
So, as we get 30 laps officially complete in our inaugural race here at Nashville, the strategies are very much at the forefront the drivers' minds. Will Gibson shuffled back to third, maybe now fourth as Lanini tries to come on through. It's Groff from Cone, from Lanini, Gibson, Mikes, Rodriguez. The car's yet to come down pit lane. Trevor Malone's joined the party. The gap back to Wardlow, now 1.5 seconds.
Yeah, and that is going to be that big number that we talked about, Arjuna. That is outside of the effective draft range, so that is not going to help Dustin be able to save any bit of fuel. And he's got a little bit of worry coming up from behind him. That is Matt Taylor and Ricky Harden very, very close on his 6.
Can also see there's some separation back to Craig Forsyth, George Anzaldo, and Mike Rigney, who are just outside of the top 10. So cars that came down to pit lane, maybe not as organized as they would have wanted to be, as Will Gibson still under fire from Chris Lanini. We'll see Mike's red-white machine down low, and maybe Gibson will start sliding backwards. We are seeing both the low and the high lines being viable options. It's just where you place your car, where those around you are trying to run.
Yeah, exactly, Arjuna, and that is really the thing. You've just got to feel out this track. In a race like this that is a sort of, let's call it a intermediate pack race, as it were, you've got to just be responding to what you see around you. You can't be driving your preferred line 9 times out of 10, so you've got to feel comfortable putting that car in many, many places on the track.
Let's talk about our MOZA Racing driver profile, because he seems to be the man to watch as Trevor Malone goes to the outside of David Rodriguez. He's clearly got a strategy in mind, and in his 40th start, he's looking for the elusive first Lionheart Retro Series victory. Has never been on the podium. Always, though, someone that we watch for in terms of speed.
Yeah, he is a very, very quick driver, is Trevor Malone. Always one to keep an eye out for, and obviously the old days of that bright teal car are gone. He's got a little bit more of a restrained car here, so not nearly as easy to spot, but still with that pink, pretty easy to spot out on track.
Are you saying pink is more restrained than teal?
Well, the shade of teal that he had
Fair.
was so very easily seeable.
And the fact that it was just a solid color. Very similar to what Will Gibson has in front of him, but I will pick up what you're putting down. Wardlow now 2.1 back from Rodriguez. It is definitely trouble stations for those behind. And look at the hornet's nest that's developed behind Dustin Wardlow. Not sure what the strategy call here is, but Paul Jenkins, Alex Guyon, Michael O'Brien, all really fighting tooth and nail for the time being. They've closed on the group that Dustin Wardlow continues to lead.
Yes, they have, and I've got to wonder here if they're going to be content to lay up behind Dustin and save some fuel and try to extend this stint as long as possible, because frankly, the gap that we've seen develop between Wardlow and Rodriguez is upwards of 2 seconds, and I think trying to close that back in here at this point may be a little bit too much to bear.
Get a look from up above, the single file train that's formed behind the Candyman and the visual separation that they have. The leading group of cars. If you're Trevor Malone, what are you thinking right now? What is your action plan when the drivers that have not pitted come down to the pit lane in just over 10 laps time or so?
Well, I think for Trevor here at this point, what I would be doing and what it looks like he's doing is he is just holding station behind Bobby Mikes right now, not really looking like he's trying to push that hard. Indeed, as he comes through the corner right now, is backing off a little bit. I think he's trying to save as much as he can to be able to extend his gap because he knows he is going to be running in very, very clean air, and he is not going to have any benefit of anybody to save around it.
Of course, we're just coming off a blockbuster weekend of motorsports, not just the Monaco Grand Prix, the Coke 600, but the 106th running of the Indianapolis 500. As I mentioned at the start of the show, DJ and myself got to meet up just before the race day festivities. And DJ, you told me you've been going to the race for an awfully long time.
This was my 19th year straight, my 20th 500 I have ever been to, Arjuna. It is a yearly pilgrimage for me to head back to Indy.
And I can now say, having finally experienced it for myself, there's just something special about it. You can't put it into words. You can't describe it at all. It's just a feeling when you walk to the track, when you go under the tunnel, when you take your seats on the grandstands. Indy is special. And the thing that really shocked me was 2.5 miles. You know that's big. You don't really know how big it is until you see it in person.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of my favorite things in the world. My seats are at the exit of turn 1, and we normally camp out the day before, and I love walking down the long main straightaway and seeing everybody just sort of marvel at how big the place is, and then you finally get to the seats and you see the cars go at full tilt for the first time, and you realize in about 30 seconds that they're back to you, and you kind of put together in your head that distance that you walked and realize just how quick those cars are going.
And I love the pre-race festivities as well. I missed taps, unfortunately. I reached my grandstand because it was not the most well-organized event, if I'm being completely honest. I think part of that, though, was the fact that it was 325,000 people descending on a town, the population of which is about 12,000 on a good day normally. But get to the stands, national anthem, the flyover happens, and then you get back home again in Indiana, and everybody was belting it from the bottom of their lungs. It's something that we have here on RaceSpotTV as well, and we'll play back home again in Indiana when we get to Indianapolis in a couple of weeks' time for our second Triple Crown event, the 2022 Lionheart Retro Series. As the yellow flies, what trouble have we seen to interrupt this run? I think Gary Godso's number 3 machine has come in strife.
Yeah, it looks like that's what it is. That's Godso there, running a little bit slow on the backstretch. Let's wind up the replay here. A little bit of contact sends the number 3 around.
Now that was with one of the divided by 0 machines. Looks like Brett Accord. We'll get a look on board with him. And you'll just see the indecision here as well, I think, from both drivers. So Godso slides up. You can see he's very, very loose, then slides up again. If I'm going to be completely honest, I think that's on Gary.
Yeah, it looked like there he just didn't have complete control of the car. You can see the slide, yep, and from that angle you can really see it. He definitely does move up there, and I've got to put the blame on the spinning car.
So, we know 6 cars are down to pit lane. Is anyone going to do anything different? That's the question that's now popped into my mind. Looks like only a couple are gambling. Dustin Wardlow, George Anzaldo, maybe Mike Rigney, Alex Guillon, David Sirwa. What would you do in this situation?
I would come down pit lane here just because we're starting to see a little bit more of settling into the race. We're starting to see the cautions be fewer and farther in between, so I wouldn't want to risk an alternate strategy here at this point.
Race off a pit road. We'll see Tyler Groff emerge in front of Mark Cohn, Chris Lanini, Will Gibson, and Trevor Malone. So not much of a shake around there. But it does seem as though 10 cars will not have come down to box, as we're not even to the 50-lap marker where we would have expected the first of our green flag pit stops.
No, we are not, and the majority of the field, as you said, have coming down here at least twice at this point. So very, very interesting to see what everybody is doing at this point. But I've got to say, Wardlow and Zaldo, Wardlow's the one that I'm going to be watching out for. We haven't really seen a whole lot of pace today out of guys like George Zaldo, Mike Rigney, Alex Guyon, David Sirwa, all of them. We haven't seen what they can do, so it's a bit of an unknown up at the front of this field.
George Zaldo, the series organizer, also has the most starts in this retro series, making start number 91 here today. Still searching for that first victory, but has 3 poles to his name. A man that works tirelessly to put on everything that we're seeing right now. Best finish this season for Zaldo was 5th at New Hampshire. We'll see if what he can do from what will be 2nd spot on track. The pole position man is back at the front of the field, though.
Yes, he is, and we've seen the pace out of Dustin Wardlow early in the race, but obviously a little bit of questions here being drawn in with that off pace that he had, really separating out those 2 groups. So I'm going to be very interested to see what the number 9 is able to do when we get back to green flag conditions.
I'll give you another opportunity to change your mind on your prediction. Do you think Mark Cohn still got it as we inch towards the halfway point of this race?
Well, Mark is running right now, 2nd of those drivers that came down pit lane. I still think he is on for a good run here. I've got to think that some of these drivers up ahead could be getting into a little bit of trouble. Everybody that's been out has been out for about 32 to 30 laps, so they're only going to have about 20 or so laps to be able to run before they have to come down into pit lane again. I still think the drivers that came down are the ones in good position.
Although having said that, they only will require 1 more pit stop, so with pit road being you go down a lap, they are in the danger zone if we go green for some time. Adam Young has also come down to pit lane, so he's going to find himself at the back of the pack. Leaves now just 8 cars yet to come down and box, but like you say, 33 laps into the run. Not sure what we've been seeing in terms of tires. 31 took to the green. I believe we still have 30 out there on track. The only retiree, Brian Hotham's 91.
Yeah, he's the only one there, although the lights are off now on the iRacing pace car, so we should get ready to go back to green flag racing. Dustin Wardlow bringing the field around with Zaldo and Rigney behind them.
So, again, it's a strategy gamble, but 8 cars are due to pit lane in about 20-odd laps. 1 stop required from here as we work towards the halfway marker of the Xtreme Scoring Nashville 150 presented by MOZA Racing. Back at the front, it's your pole position winner. The Candyman Dustin Wardlow will get us back underway in the Music City as the pace car pulls off. The field's in control of the number 9 machine. And a 2nd caution of the night comes to a close. We're racing again at the Nashville Super Speedway. A good start from Dustin Wardlow. They're single-filed for now into turn 1, but pack racing galore is about to get back underway.
It certainly is, and a good gap there for Wardlow of about 0.3 of a second. Let's call it about 5 or 6 car lengths as they work their way down the backstretch. Already starting to see we've got a car into the wall hard.
And that's not just into the wall. That was Chris Reagan, I believe, who was up and over that 19 red and white machine. Well, that is day done. Cautions breed cautions, and restarts can be tricky. Let's check out what's happened at the back of the pack, and whoa, that's a vicious old impact. Reagan actually avoids going up and over, but a hellacious hit, and Chris Reagan's night comes to a close in the brink of an eye. And I wonder, now was that with the 51 of Brett Accord?
Let's watch it and see here. Yep, I think Brett drifted up the track a little bit, similar to what we saw from Gary Godso earlier, just drifting up, and it looks like wasn't prepared for it. And we can watch. Yep, there it is, and there's the contact, and that is him also going around there just for good measure.
So somewhat help out those who have not come down to pit lane again. We'll get a look at this replay. You'll see the aftermath of it as one of the Backfire Motorsports cars did have contact, but I think has very much come out as favorably as they would have imagined. But that's caution number 3. Cautions breed cautions. You said we'd get maybe 3-4 cautions, DJ. We're not halfway yet. What are you thinking?
I think we may get a few more. That may be the prediction that I have to change here, as we saw that starting to happen, and we talked about as these cars get lighter, they get a little bit more worn on the tires, that we see them start to get looser, and that's a little bit of what you're seeing. Drivers starting to be a little bit more careless as they need to build that rhythm back up. I think we could see another caution here early on in this run. If not, we could see another good long green flag run once the rhythm goes.
So, it's about a 47, 48 lap run on fuel in a 113 lap race. That means that ideally you want to pit no earlier than lap 65. So, with the cars at the front having stopped 36 laps ago, they've got to extend this stint by another 12 laps, which would mean 48 laps on the run, which is basically a green flag run that doesn't take into account the 2 caution periods that we've had. Those cars are looking good. The question I'd have is, are they looking better than those behind who will have a shorter stop and will spend more time with less fuel at the end of this race?
Well, that's the question that we are going to have to see sorted out here, Arjuna, and I don't think we're really going to get an answer for that until we probably cross over the century mark in this race to figure out exactly how that strategy is going to play.
And David Rodriguez is going to come down pit lane now. Does he think he can make it from here?
That is a mighty, mighty tall order, and he is going to be praying for plenty of caution to come out if he does think he can make it. I gotta think this is going to be a little bit too long to stretch, but once again, David Rodriguez, the fuel whisperer, if anybody can do it, he can.
And the reason why I'm a bit confused by the call is the fact that now he's going to have a little more fuel than those in front of him. We talk about how the car gets faster the lighter it is. We saw that after the first restart we had, right, where the top 6 were able to break away. Only Trevor Malone was able to close up with them.
Right, and that could put him at a very significant disadvantage around here, as he's going to be trying to, keep up the speed to the best of his abilities, and to be able to save fuel, you've got to be able to keep up close behind the driver in front of you. And if he's taking that on, it may not be able to do that. He may actually have to work a little bit harder to keep up to the drivers in front of him, and that could use a little bit more fuel than he would like to.
Of course, it's the second race in a row where we've gone to a brand new track for the series. Indianapolis is a staple, but after that, to close out the first half of the season, to bookend the first half of the season, we'll head to the Hungaroring. What a track that is. It's going to be difficult to pass. We know that. And then in the back half of the season, we're going to go to some new facilities for the first time as well. Motegi, it's going to be a first time there for the Grand Prix layout of the track. We return to Montreal for the first time in 4 years. We really are mixing things up, DJ. I've really been enjoying the season, and the fact that we change things up as well makes it a little bit more difficult for those experienced drivers, those that have been around, to see it all.
Yeah, it certainly adds a level of newness and a level of unpredictability to the season coming to these new tracks. It's not like you've got years of experience to fall back upon. You've got to go out and you are on the same foot as everybody else when you step out onto a new facility.
So cautions breed cautions. On the restart, after Gary Godso and Brett Accord came together, Accord had another issue this time. It was with Chris Reagan. Can we go green from here? The magic number, lap 65 to get to the end. Dustin Wardlow doesn't wait as long to get us back underway for the Xtreme scoring Nashville 150. We're back underway at the Nashville Superspeedway.
We are indeed, and there you see those drivers starting to fan themselves out. A couple of aggressive moves in the back. We'll have to see if they're able to get through turns 1 and 2 cleanly this time around.
Looks like Ricky Harden battling with Robert and Mike's 2 cars that were running quite well up through the field, but they've got to fight for some track position now as we come back to the line out of turn 4. We complete a lap under green this time. A couple of 2 wide moments back on the edge of the top 10. Drivers got to be careful. They want to get a green flag run under their belts now.
Yeah, they certainly do. Watching here, George Ansaldo starting to peek his way this way and that on your leader, Dustin Wardlow. George just maybe trying to figure out if he can find a little way to slide his way forward for a move, although a gaggle starting to form behind them in the form of the two Lavoie Motorsports drivers, Sirois and Goyon.
Now, I believe George Anzaldo is actually working with David Sirois and Alex Guin as part of the Raven Lavoie Motorsports team. So, in effect, they've got 3 of their cars inside of the top 5. They might want to try and work together amongst one another. Anzaldo will help out Sirois get the toe down the back straight away, and the Canadian will slide in front of Rigney. Now they'll try and work to try and get Guyon up there as well. But we talked about how the cars with heavier tanks were going to be left out to dry. Tyler Graf, 1.3 back from Luke Daniels as Will Gibson fights to the front of the peloton.
And there he goes, trying to push his way forward. Everybody getting themselves around, and there you can see that whole pack of drivers that did come down and get that fuel. And you can just see the visual distance there between of running on a lighter tank and running on that heavier tank.
Happens so frequently, but David Sirois goes to the lead of the race, to the inside of Dustin Wardlow, and the Candyman gets dropped once more. I don't think Wardlow's been fighting these moves too hard.
No, I don't think he has. I think Dustin here is going to be relatively happy to stay behind. There you see him, a little bit of a lift going down into turn 3. There are those two Raven Lavoie Motorsports drivers in the form of Anzaldo and Goyon as they go, trying to work together there a little bit. Wardlow poking his head this way and that, though.
1.9, though, back to Will Gibson. If we go green, I'd speculate the top 8 might really be in a good position because, again, you go a lap down when you pit under green flag conditions, but you can minimize the harm to your race the further out in front you are.
Yes, you can, and that is going to be absolutely crucial. The longer you can run on a lighter tank of fuel, that is going to be better for you overall. Little bit of a pass going on there in the back, though.
This is where the real action is. They're somewhat single file at the front, and Zaldo and Guyon fighting for 3rd, but 3 wide on the run into turn 3. It's Matt Taylor who goes aggressive, and Tyler Graf had to get very, very tentative on the entry to the corner. He'll cause a stack up, almost gets run over by Craig Forsyth, who now goes backward. That's still almost 3 wide as they come into turn 1.
Careful, boys. This is how you get another caution to be able to come out here. These guys have got to be a little bit careful. We are not in the last 5 laps of this race. There's still plenty of running left to do.
And Graf again finds himself 3 wide. This time, though, sailing down the inside goes Richie Hearn from up above. We look. This is getting scary.
This is getting very, very scary and very, very hairy here, Arjuna. And Tyler Graf there coming on the radio saying, calm it down here a little bit, boys, and I've got to agree with him.
I see what you did there. Very punny indeed. But you can, again, see the gap. It's now up to just over 2.5 seconds. Every second, every tenth of a second is going to be vital for those cars up front to try and make something happen in the pit stop cycle. They are due to pit lane within the next 5 laps.
Yeah, that is going to be the big kicker here as they come around, working their way through here, now through the corner. That big hornet's nest there behind as it continues to go, with Matt Taylor leading the way, looking like he's got a little bit of breathing room. And
Richie Hearn will dive to pit road. I have a feeling he has run himself up into the wall. Not sure if that was intentional or assisted. Let's dive to the RaceSpotTV replay to take a look as, self-inflicted mistake it would appear.
Yeah, just trying to find a little bit of room to be able to get around there. We ride on board with him right now. You can see him just kind of go up there. I think he just misjudged the angle a little bit.
Now the track does come in, so it's an easy mistake to make, but that's going to be unfortunate for Richie, who is looking somewhat impressive. We'll have to try and fight back in the next couple of rounds. We still watch this Hornet's Nest, now 2.8 back from your race leaders, who are due imminently down to pit road. We are past the halfway point of this race. Tyler Graf has slid backwards into 16th position. Don't think he'll mind so much because they're still fighting tooth and nail to try and work their way forward.
Yeah, if I was Tyler in this position, I'd be relatively happy to be behind all of this up in front of me, to be able to just run along here and run my own race. I wouldn't want to be duking it out necessarily over the halfway point. That's where you want to be at the end of the race, not right now.
Remember what happened at Homestead? That was crazy. I think we're in for something similar here.
I think you may just be right on that one, Arjuna, the way this race is starting to shape itself up.
I think we almost lost our voices with that Homestead race, because one by one they dropped like flies. Richie Hearn, the first to fall here in this battle inside, or just outside, I should say, of the top 10, where Matt Taylor leads from Chris Fowler, Will Gibson, Ricky Hardin, Robert Mikes. They are now 3.2 back from the leading train, who have set sail and are working with one another to build up the advantage.
And that gap just continues to grow here. Those lighter fuel tanks really playing out, but it is only a matter of time before they have to come down pit lane. They are all working on about lap 53 of the stint, and we anticipated about 49 to 50 laps to be able to go without any yellows. So I've got to think it is just a matter of minutes here before they have to come down.
And if the caution comes out now, these cars, they will be frustrated on one hand that the gap that they built up has disappeared, but they know they won't be in the danger zone, because once they're down on pit lane, if a caution flies, then they are in trouble. It is as simple as that, and Dustin Wardlow shows the line that you've got to take on pit road entry. Nice and careful through the access road. The Candyman is the first to box.
Well, and that's the other thing here, pitting under green. You've got to come down on that access road, and you're going to lose even more time in doing it. That's why it is so much more preferred to be able to come down on a yellow flag condition. But leading the way right now, it is the two Raven Lamar Motorsports drivers.
Now, qualifying did not work their way, as Silra's going to come down onto pit lane. Both cars were up almost 20-odd positions. Guyon's plus 18. Silra at one point was plus 21, so they are riding out this strategy call to see where it will take them. But this is where I'm still a little bit worried. Too wide, about 3 rows deep, almost 3 wide, fanning themselves off the corner. These boys, like Tyler Groff said, have got to be careful. Will Gibson with the lunge to the inside. Matt Taylor says, no thank you, not right now.
And that's not what you want to be seeing here. That is a little bit of aggressive move from Matt Taylor, but he is entitled to be able to hold that line. More drivers coming down pit lane. Looks like Anzaldo and Frazier.
Still waiting for Guyon, Rigney, Daniels, and Herrick to box. The only cars yet to come down from that leading group for what will be their final stop of this extreme scoring Nashville 150 presented by MOZA Racing. It's danger zone time as Guyon comes down, Herrick comes down as well. Only Mike Rigney is yet to box.
Well, and that's going to leave him out there in a little bit of a position. He's not going to have any drafting, but he says we almost go 3 wide there in the back.
This is where you are scared if you're those cars that have boxed, because you see this and you're thinking, oh no, if we're moments away from seeing the caution. Also, just point out that those cars that box have been splintered up, so they're not really able to work as well with one another as they were doing before. Rigney comes down. Matt Taylor, Will Gibson fighting for the lead of the race.
Oh, and Gibson almost pinched him there, coming down a little bit. Chris Fowler trying to get involved in that as well. Craig Forsyth leading that quad right there of drivers. Very tight running as you see everybody else coming back out of pit lane.
Under 40 laps to go in the Music City for the first time with the Lotus 79s. 3 cautions so far have seen a split call on strategy play itself out. 17-odd cars have 1 stop to go. 9 cars have made their final stop of this extreme scoring Nashville 150 presented by MOZA Racing. The run to the checkered flag is coming up next on RaceSpotTV.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker, the future is feeling.
Welcome back to the Music City, where we are under caution for the 4th time today. The strategy gamble for the cars that stayed out the previous caution round has played out in dramatic fashion, with many of them trapped at the tail end of the field. Welcome back to RaceSpotTV, where we're live from the Nashville Super Speedway for round 7 of your 2022 Lionheart Retro Series. Alongside myself, Arjuna Kenkipati, delighted to be joined by DJ Clark once more. And DJ, what did we say? They're in the danger zone, and danger, it turned out, was right around the corner.
Yes, it was a big incident here, taking out a couple of drivers, unfortunately, putting them down in the field, including Paul Jenkins and Bobby Mikes. It looks like both getting put out there. Chris Reagan as well also may have been involved in it. As we go back to check out this replay of exactly what happened, just a little bit of contact there off the wall. Jenkins being collected big time and taking a big hop, skip, and a jump.
And Trevor Malone skips through the drama. No care in the world for the number 34 machine. You'll just watch here once more as Paul Jenkins will see Bobby Mikes hit the wall in front of him. Hop, skip, and a jump. There was nothing that Paul Jenkins can do. And we'll grab another look on board with this Moses moment with Trevor Malone.
Oh, you can see that there, and for Trevor, this is just that hold on and pray moment. Oh, talk about last-minute instinct moves.
Some say that would be lucky, but to quote, I think it was Gary Player, you make your own luck. And what does this mean? Well, the likes of Siraj, Guyon, and Zaldo, Wardlow, they'll get their laps back, but they'll be at the tail end of the field. They have a lot of work to do to fight back to the front.
Yes, they do, but relatively here at this point, everything is going to be equalized in terms of fuel, so we're not going to see those big gaps develop like we saw earlier on in the race. So I think it's going to be a little bit easier maybe for them to be able to try to fight their way back up forward, but it's still no overall easily task done.
And what do we know now? The strategy is over. It's pedal to the metal. It's go time.
Yes, it is. Nobody's going to be conserving fuel at this point. 33 to go. Everybody will have plenty to be able to make it to the end. So it is absolute go time.
Might even see some fuel burning for some of these cars, as those that boxed early during the green flag cycle will get back their lap. They'll tail around to the very back of the pack. Matt Taylor, Chris Fowler find themselves at the front of this field.
Yes, they do, and it's going to be interesting to see here what kind of jump they're able to get on the field. We've seen the leader be able to get a relatively decent jump on the first getaway and then be closed out in the last couple of laps, but we haven't seen Matt Taylor, we haven't seen Chris Fowler, Craig Forsyth, Ricky Harden, any of these guys really at the lead of the field here at this point, so it'll be interesting to see how they play out.
All right, I'll give you one final chance to correct your pick. Are you changing your mind now with 31 to go at the line?
Mark Cohn is in 8th. I still like that position for him. We're going to have to see. I'm sticking with the Watchman.
I get the feeling it's going to be one of the MadWorks Motorsports cars. Either Matt Taylor or Chris Fowler, both looking for their second victory of 2022. So the pace car's off. 4 cautions so far today. 31 laps to go. It's a MadWorks Motorsports 1 and 2 with Craig Forsyth right behind them. We're back underway. Green flag racing at the Xtreme Scoring Nashville 150, presented by MOZA Racing. Another good jump from the top 4. It's 5th on back, where it looks interesting.
Yes, it does. A little bit of side-by-side there in the back. You can see some of the drivers starting to weave and bob their way this way, and that Michael O'Brien and Lionel Kalisto looking like they're going side-by-side down into the corner.
Qualifying didn't go great for MadWorks Motorsports, but Fowler and O'Brien both have made up about 15-odd positions to find themselves in some great points-paying positions. That's what championship runs are made of. the consistency to be able to work your way to the front of the field. And at the front, it's teammates battling side by side. What's rule number one of racing? Don't hit your teammate. Taylor and Fowler have got to be careful.
Yes, they do. Little bit of a wiggle there from behind from Craig Forsyth. He was able to hold on to that car, thankfully, but Ricky Harden here, the one stalking in the background, trying to see what they can do.
Fowler goes up high. Forsyth trying to come down low with Harden looming as well as they dive into turn 3 once more. Under 30 laps to go for this inaugural trip to the Music City with these Lotus 79s, and Forsyth gets tight, runs up the track, just about avoids hitting Chris Fowler.
Yeah, that was very, very close there for Craig Forsyth, and I'm very impressed also with Ricky Harden that he didn't run into the back of Forsyth with that checkup. But look who's coming up behind here, Tyler Groff. We haven't talked a lot about him running towards the front of the field. He was up here early. Well, he's right back to where he wants to be.
Remember, he was a little bit spooked earlier on with the raciness of that chasing pack, and has found himself in a great spot as O'Brien, Callisto side by side just behind. Groff goes up high, trying to find a lane to work his way forward, but goes way too high if you ask me. I think the middle groove, if you're not down low, is where you want to be, but it puts you in danger of getting run up the track by those down low.
Yes, it does, and at this point, we're not also dealing with a lack of fuel stops coming in, but remember, these tires are getting a little bit worn here at this point on this concrete surface. You've got to be very, very careful. This car is going to be handling a whole lot different than it was at the beginning of the race.
If you want an indication of how much this surface really grinds at the tires, when the IndyCar Series came here, drivers were getting down to 0% on the tires. Now, these are bias-ply tires designed to go a full race distance in Formula One racing. However, this is a very different challenge to what they would have been designed for. Tyler Groff will lose out to Michael O'Brien. Madworks Motorsports have 3 cars in the top 5.
And O'Brien running some very good lines there. Whoa, big slide up to the outside. He wants to move up onto that high line. I like what I'm seeing here out of O'Brien.
And the caution flies again. This time it's Cristobal Valenzuela, and there is the car upside down. It's Jim Herrick, our winner at Pocono.
Ooh, that is not the way you want that car pointing. And for Cristobal Valenzuela, that car looking into be a whole world of hurt. Let's go back to the replay and check out what happened.
So the teammates were side by side, and now is he going to get loose by himself? In fact, excuse me, it wasn't a teammate. A very similar liveried car. I assume that's George Anzaldo in the number 6 machine. And so into turn 1 they come. Now, is there going to be contact from behind? Yes, there is. Jim Herrick's, a passenger in the space shuttle ride that he went on.
I hope Jim's not in VR, otherwise that would have been a very, very awkward trip for him.
Fortunately, he's not. But still, you just watch here. Nothing he can do, and yeah, close your eyes if you get motion sick, because that's an experience. Welcome to iRacing.
That is an experience indeed there for him. Very, very rough and tumble. We take one more look as there you can see Adam Young, all of the chaos just unfolding in front of him.
Well, that wasn't the car we were trying to grab. Here we go. This will be the best look that we've got as to why the actual incident occurred. As we ride on board with Adam Fraser in the 88, just sends it too deep. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, simple as that. Just sent it in too deep. A little bit of contact there, and the Raven Motorsports silver driver, really the impetus for that whole incident taking place, I have to say there, Arjuna.
That will be something Race Control definitely looks at post-race. So 5th caution of the day. We slow it down again, and cautions breed cautions. These drivers have got to be careful in the restart.
Yes, they do. They've got to be very careful indeed as they go now. Safety car lights still are on, though, so we'll have one more lap under caution to re-rack everything.
DJ mentioned the tire life as well. These cautions really just helping the drivers in some ways. We're not so concerned with the heat cycles and whatnot, but really the main concern is going to be the overall wear and load that tires are being placed under. It's looking good if you're at the front of this field. And Madworks Motorsports, I mentioned it earlier, not the greatest of qualifying performances. Matt Taylor was on the outside of row 3, but Chris Fowler was down in 18th position. Michael O'Brien was down in, 21st? The points leaders in the team championship looking good to increase their gap at the front.
Yes, they are, and there's going to be a little bit of that strategy coming into play, thinking about the team game here. As you said earlier, Arjuna, the first rule of motorsports, don't run into your teammate. Rest assured that these drivers not going to want to be doing that.
Virtual paddock getting a little bit busy as the drivers that are already eliminated from this race discuss with one another. Both Bobby Mikes and Paul Jenkins communicating about their issue that happened on lap 78. No hard feelings either way, but I think both drivers a little bit frustrated just with the fact that a good result robbed from their results for this 2022 season, which has very much been an up and down season for everyone. It took until round 6 before we had our first repeat winner in the form of Mike Razmas. You look at 2021, the opening 6 races of the season was basically Sage Karam domination.
Yes, it was an absolute dominant performance there from Sage, and obviously it coming back around here to have a little bit more parity this time out, and still the racing just as good across the board.
Sage Karam, of course, coming off another appearance with Dreyer and Reinbold Racing in the Indianapolis 500. Didn't go maybe to plan, but he was looking on a decent spot in strategy and had an incident with David Malukas on the final lap. Of course, the main drama when it came to David Malukas wasn't really that contact, but the fact that, as many people will say, DJ, he was robbed of the Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, it very much was. Malukas drove a very, very good race there. Finished up as high as he did, highest placed rookie, but the voting for Rookie of the Year, not done by position, it's done by overall, and Jimmy Johnson was the one that took that prize this time around.
I'll just give my opinion. Jimmy did great in qualifying, and then experienced it, well, on day 1 of qualifying, experienced what the Fast 12 can do with a big old slide on lap 1, and then struggled in the race. Yes, he brings a lot of other things to the table, but I don't think it's as clear-cut as when Fernando Alonso won it over, who was it, Ed Jones back in 2017, when Alonso led laps, was looking on course for a great victory before he ended up retiring.
I have to fully agree with you there, Arjuna. I think David Malukas, if I was him, I'd feel a little bit robbed at this point.
Well, will anyone get robbed of a victory here today? 5 cautions so far with 20 laps to go. We're approaching the point of no return where a caution would end our inaugural trip to the Music City. It's a MadWorks Motorsports 1-2. We're back underway at Nashville.
Yes, we are, and yet another good start there out front for our leaders as they start to pull away a little bit. It looks like Ricky Harden trying to get to the inside there of Craig Forsyth, and I think he's got it.
Gonna have the inside line, and when we're not up to speed, the inside is definitely a little bit faster. Forsyth gets spooked by Harden, who got a big old wiggle on the entry to the corner. O'Brien slides on through, the New Zealander up to 4th.
And remember, we said here that car was looking pretty good earlier on. Michael O'Brien here definitely on a good run. Is he going to be able to get his name up into the conversation for the win of this race?
He's looking to the outside, of Ricky Harden. Can he make it a MadWorks Motorsports 1, 2, and 3? What a storyline that would be. They're fighting for the lead of the race, Taylor and Fowler, but here comes the O'Brien Express. Yellow flag flies, though. Alex Guyon gets mixed up.
Oh, a big contact there, and I'm not sure who that other car is. That looks like Gary Godso involved in it as well.
So it's looking like we might have been on for a slightly longer run, but we slow it down once more. There is an engine that is blown on pit lane. I would assume that is Alex Guyon's machine. Let's see what happened here as we grab the RaceSpotTV replay. Gary Godso coming into contact with Guyon, and then coming into the shot that spread a cord. Not sure exactly if he had enough time to slow down there, but get another look at it. You can see they were close off turn number 2, and now ride with Dustin Wardlow as they work into the corner.
Coming down here, let's keep an eye on this. Does it look like I've got to put the blame there on that Raven Lavoie Motorsports machine? It looked like he cut down into Godso.
One more look if we can even slow it down. I think that will be important. We've gone back just a little bit too far, so let's see if we can cycle this one again. And we'll pick up then from up above what's going to happen between the two of them, because I kind of get the sense it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Godso doesn't really turn in like you might expect.
Yeah, I've got to give you that there, Arjuna. You would expect him to arc that corner just a little bit more going down into there. And there you can see that final contact there. Not really sure what happened on that. That looked like there was enough time to react.
Yeah, let's see if we can pick this up. So, see where that initial contact starts. We don't really see all of it. And then you just see Brett Accord coming to a very, very tentative stop. One more look, and he's trying to lock it down, but I think just struggling to pick a lane. I don't think that's what you call an arc of brakes. I think that's just one of the dangers of going racing on an oval.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there, especially at the speeds that we are seeing here in this Lionheart Retro Series. You are really coming in at a massive, massive clip.
So many cars have been involved in multiple incidents today. Gary Godso, lap 47 and lap 96. Brett Accord for the third time, 47, 51, and now 96 as well. But we thought this was going to be a difficult race, and it's definitely proving to be like that. Thoughts, though, on Nashville? It's one of our newer ovals here on iRacing. I think it's fair to say the IndyCar race was nothing special, and one that I think some drivers would be glad to see as a one and done. The 79s have been a bit more feisty. I've been enjoying this one a little bit more.
I have as well, Arjuna. It's been spicy. It's been a good strategy race to see played out here. I think the 150-mile race distance, absolutely perfect for these cars. And I, for one, would be happy to see this return back on the schedule. I think it's provided a fun and exciting race here for us.
We talked about this being one of the newer tracks on the schedule. 3 new tracks this season, with at least another lap under caution before we get back underway. DJ, where else do we want to go? Of course, week 13 starts, or week 13 is up next week, which means it's a new iRacing build on the horizon. And I think you know where I'm going with this. I'd love to see us go to Fuji with these Lotus 79s.
I would love to see them there, as well as I believe they did race there in real life. I'd have to check my math on that, but I think going to Fuji, one of the tracks that we anticipate being added in to the Season 3 build, I got to agree with you, Arjuna. It would be absolutely spectacular.
I'm going to dive into the history books very, very quickly. Give me a second to confirm or deny. Of course, one of the other new bits of content that is already being confirmed is Sandown?
Yep.
So I had to remind myself because we have 2 small Australian tracks that are joining the service. I wasn't sure which one was already there. We had Winton, and now we get Sandown. That's going to be fun, although, of course, you really wouldn't expect these Lotus 79s to be there. I don't know how well that would race.
I think it'd be a little bit too tight and twisty for these high-powered machines.
So, I'm trying to, as the lights are off on the pace car, I don't think the 79 ever went to Fuji, the Lotus 79. The Lotus 77, I think, went to Fuji back in 1976. But yes, I don't think this car in particular did, but we'll see it. Again, we have our doubleheader Motegi weekend. We'll see how that goes. Maybe we throw Fuji into the mix. 3 back-to-back races in the land of the rising sun.
Well, I'm game for it if the organizers are.
So, 6 cautions in this inaugural trip to Nashville. With 14 to go, will we go green to the end of this race? 3 MadWorks Motorsports cars inside of the top 4, and it's Matt Taylor who gets us back underway.
Yes, it is. Another good start there for Matt Taylor as he's able to continue to breathe everything out there. A little bit of side-by-side through the rest of the field, but that is Ricky Harden looking very, very aggressive on the back of Chris Fowler.
I think he knows that if he doesn't get the move done now, Fowler, Taylor, and O'Brien can all work together to bully him out of the chance of grabbing victory here today. The laps will fly on by. Craig Forsyth making a bit of a bobble and coming under fire from David Rodriguez. In front of them, it's Mark Cohn on his return to the series, trying to get up into the top 5. Forsyth has another bobble.
That car looking very, very squirrely. We've seen him make a couple of mistakes like that over the course of the last about 10 laps of green flag running. I have got to think that Forsyth is feeling the pain here of the light fuel tank and the worn tires.
Here comes Ricky Harden. He'll be inside of Fowler, not going to be able to get alongside with Matt Taylor in the dirty air of the race leader, and now going to get hung out to dry as the number 20 will sweep around the outside or grab onto second position once more. Tyler Groff in front of Michael O'Brien.
Yeah, he's got that pretty well locked down, and Groff now is going to set his eyes ahead of him to try to close down on Fowler and Harden, see if he can make this a 4-car battle for the front of the field.
Again, you can't go below the line onto the apron until we get to the final lap of this race. Will we see a desperation move? We'll slow things down, at least for the time being. It's Lionel Kalisto in a world of trouble.
Ooh, that car looking like it has caught a whole bunch of pain on the outside barriers. I wonder what happened here to Little Train. Let's watch and see. Comes down into the corner. Oh, and that was Forsyth. That car just continuing to have problems.
Really not enjoying this end of this race. And now again, he gets up high, a bit spooked by Malone, gets squirrely, slides down the track, and nothing that Lionel Kalisto could do. Forsyth up in the air, and then gets collected. I think that was George Anzaldo.
I think it was as well. It looks like Anzaldo was able to get away without a lot of damage on the car, but let's ride on board and check it out.
So the Raven LeVar, there's nothing you can do in that sort of a situation, and I think the iRacing gods have smiled on our series organizer. His car does not look bad.
No, his car looks pretty pristine there at that point, so I think he was able to get away very happy, and he'll be rubbing his lucky rabbit foot.
See a person in our YouTube chat saying, Oran Park. I do like a good Oran Park race. I don't know how the Lotus 79s would race, but I'm down, I'm game.
I'd be certainly willing to check it out and see how they'd go.
I'm trying to think. Magny Core, of course, is coming up at some point in the future on iRacing. It was kind of an under-the-hood announcement. I think it came at the same time as the Hungaroring was announced here on iRacing. And it's not a track that the 79 ever raced at in the real world, because, of course, it would have been at Paul Ricard in 78 and then at Dijon in 79. But I am a fan of Magny Cores, especially the chickens there. You know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about, Arjuna.
Classic video. Almost as classic as the One Wonders if Juan would be number one.
One of my personal favorites as a Montoya fan.
Montoya. What a legend. I wish he had a little bit more speed this weekend, though.
He was making some pretty good moves. I was very impressed to see him. I mean, I think he finished top 10.
Yes, but you have to compare what he did versus what Felix and Pato looked like they were going to do.
That's very true, but Juan, I think, just had a little bit of problem in qualifying. I mean, he started 31st, 32nd, something like that.
Juan wonders what would happen if Juan had been number one in qualifying. Okay, I'll stop myself and I'll restrain myself because I can go on for a lifetime. So, I think we're coming back to green with 6 to go. Now, a caution, I think, basically immediately would end the race. So, the pressure's on Ricky Harden here, who is in front of Chris Fowler.
Yes, he is, and that's going to be a huge boon to him there, that he's not going to have the teammates to sort of duke it out with. The one problem I think that Harden's going to have is we have been able to see the lead driver here be able to get a jump for about a lap or so before really getting under threat. And with just as quick as we've seen some of these cautions flying out, I have got to think Harden is going to be, yep, there he goes, keeping those tires nice and warm. He's listening to the broadcast right now. He knows what's coming.
I know some people who actually do that. I'm not a fan of it. I think that's distracted driving.
I have to agree with you. I know folks who do it, and I do not understand how they do.
Yeah, but to be fair, there are also people that can keep up a normal conversation and still drive. I can converse, not always going to be the best performance out of me. So, top 5, Taylor, Harden, Fowler, Groff, O'Brien. Behind them, Cohn, Lanini, Rodriguez, Siwa, and Malone. Inside of the top 10, you have 3 cars who started outside of it. Fowler's up 15, O'Brien's up 16, Siwa is plus 13. For O'Brien and Siwa, second and third in the championship, or third and second coming into the championship, I guess, because O'Brien's in front. This is the result that they needed at what was bound to be a difficult race.
Yes, it very, very much is the exact race that they needed to have happen. They're going to feel very, very happy about it. And I think for them, it's just going to be a little bit of a survival mode here. Just try to keep themselves in that top 5 if they can.
All right, 4th time's the charm. Are you changing your prediction now?
All right, now I've got to think. I'm going to be looking at Ricky Harden here a little bit.
Ooh, well, I'm going with Matt Taylor because I like how he's controlled these restarts, and I do think that when you're able to pick your lane, I think you're always in a better position than those behind. But I don't think we're seeing the victor coming out of the outside of the top two unless Taylor and Harden come to blows with one another.
I've got to agree with you there, Arjuna. I think it's going to be between Taylor and Harden as we get ready to go back to green.
Matt Taylor has 5 career victories to his name. Ricky Harden, just the one. Chris Fowler, also just the one. They're looking to add to their records in the history books, but Matt Taylor will get us back underway in the Music City. What a launch from the number 8 machine.
Yeah, fantastic launch there. That's exactly what he needs. And look at what Chris Fowler's doing behind. He's already starting to challenge Ricky Harden and try to see if he can be able to get himself up by past the number 7.
It may just be the team game here. If Fowler can distract Harden for long enough, Taylor might be able to run away and take control of this race. But Harden's going to give the good old shuffle to Fowler, who's now going to watch as Tyler Groff joins the party. Here comes O'Brien as well. 5 cars fighting for the lead with 5 to go.
This is going to get very, very spicy. Harden moving this way and that, trying to find an open opportunity. It looks like Groff there down to the inside, trying to find it as well. And that is going to be Matt Taylor hugging that inside line.
And Ricky Harden doesn't know which way to go. He thinks he wants the outside line, but you could see checked up his own momentum, just trying to stay in the draft of Matt Taylor. This time he'll pop out to the outside. He sees Fowler coming side by side. Taylor leads at the line 3 wide into turn number 1.
And Tyler Groff there ducking down, and that's him hard into the wall.
And that will end the race. Chris Fowler, well, it seems like he's cursed, at least here at Nashville. Matt Taylor will be victorious in the Xtreme Racing Nashville 150 presented by MOZA Racing.
Oh my goodness, that was almost predictable as they went in 3 wide, but you have got to feel bad there for Chris Fowler as we check out the replay.
Let's watch the entire sequence that led to this crash, because it wasn't just one moment, it was, as expected, frenetic as they all jockeyed for some position, as they all tried to put themselves in the spot that would lead to a victory. The momentum from Fowler was building up. He saw the pressure from behind in the form of Tyler Groff. He tried to set it up out of turn 4. He saw Ricky Harden look outside, tried to get the toe, tried to get to the outside groove, but on the run into turn number 1, you'll see him try and turn down low. You'll see Harden try and arc the corner, and Chris Fowler goes for a ride.
Yes, he does. Just an unfortunate confluence of events there between the two. So very rough. Michael O'Brien, we ride on board with, and he had a bird's eye perspective of that entire incident.
That's an unfortunate end to the day for Chris Fowler, but I will put it out there. I think that was just racing.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. No fault on either driver there. That is just what happens when you are running this close to one another, this close to the end of the race.
So you said over-under on cautions, 3.5.
I clearly need to edit my stat lines.
Yes, so we were at, what, 8 cautions today?
I mean, it looked like at the beginning of the race that we were going to hit that, but everything got a little bit crazier on as we went along.
31 started. Just 18 will finish on the lead lap. Just 19 will even make it to the end of the race. Still a very fun one. You could tell the drivers were having to wheel these machines.
Yeah, they certainly were, and as we talked about earlier in the race, a little bit of a loose setup, a little bit harder to control around here as they go, and so absolutely fantastic to see these drivers be able to really wrestle these machines. This is exactly the kind of setup you want to see out of these cars, where it is just on the knife's edge.
So, 1 to go. We won't take the white. We will finish under caution. In a series known for close finishes, this won't be one of them. It was looking like we were setting up for a blockbuster finish, though. So, one more trip around the 1.3-mile Nashville Superspeedway. Tyler Groff will be slightly disappointed. Mark Cohn, I think, is going to be slightly disappointed. The strategy, I think, has caught him out more than anything. I think questions remain as to what David Rodriguez was trying to do on fuel. But again, I'll say it like what I was saying Just before we went back green, O'Brien and Sirot in a championship season. Consistency wins championships. They both didn't impress in qualifying, but they get valuable points on the board.
Yeah, indeed, and those points are going to be very, very crucial as we get in closer and closer to the halfway point of this season. We're going to have to start taking a harder look at those championship standings, and I think specifically for MadWorks and for the leaders of this series, they're going to be keeping an eye on just trying to get those top 5s, those top 10s.
And even with Chris Fowler's disappointment at the end of this race, it's a good day for MadWorks Motorsports in the team championship. But out of turn 4, under caution, at a pedestrian speed, Matt Taylor ended 2021 in disappointment. Tied on points with Aaron Morgan for the championship, Countback gave the crown to Aaron Morgan. Taylor has looked to bounce back. He'll become the second driver to win 2 races in 2022. With his 6th victory in 34 starts, Matt Taylor wins the Xtreme Scoring Nashville 150 presented by MOZA Racing. He'll burn it down in HyperX Victory Lane. A fascinating day of strategy, intrigue, as well as difficult car control. Nashville had it all.
Yeah, it most certainly did, and as we said, Arjuna, I for one would be very happy to see this 1.3 mile oval come back to the fold when it comes to the schedule for the Lionheart Retro Series.
And clearly, I'll get the racing driver excuses out there. It was clearly a good setup, but a difficult setup. So if we're blaming anyone, we're blaming RaceSpot's own Andrew Kinsella, the setup maker for all things Lionheart. Matt Taylor is becoming accustomed to HyperX Victory Lane. He'll burn it down in the Music City. Congratulations to Matt Taylor, your winner of the Xtreme Scoring Nashville 150, presented by MOZA Racing. And as he celebrates, let's take a look then at our SimRace 24/7 race results. Plenty of drama. It's MadWorks Motorsports and Matt Taylor on top, with Tyler Groff and Ricky Harden completing the podium positions. Michael O'Brien, one of the biggest movers of the day, plus 17 to get himself up into the top 4. Came into this race 3rd in the championship, will leave as your championship leader. Mark Cohen on his return emerges inside the top 5, while Chris Lanini's down in 6th. David Rodriguez, David Sirot, Luke Daniels, and Trevor Malone through the top 10. Dustin Wardlow put it on pole, but strategy was not his friend. The cautions came out at the worst possible time. The Candyman is in 11th with Mike Rigney behind him. Rodrigo Munoz, the best of the Backfarm Motorsports trio, down in 13th, while George Gonzalo, Adam Frazier, and Adam Young make a Raven trio from 14th through 16th. Hugo Gallas down in 17th position with Will Gibson, Richie Hearn, and Chris Fowler behind him. Richie Hearn surviving to the checkered flag after a bit of a run into the wall, self-inflicted for Richie Hearn. Chris Fowler, of course, coming unstuck at the very end of this race. Craig Forsyth, one of the many cars finishing this race in the garage, along with Lionel Callisto, Alex Guillon, Gary Godso, Red Accord, Jim Herrick, Cristobal Valenzuela, Paul Jenkins, Robert Mikes, and Chris Reagan through the top 30. Brian Hotham, our final retiree in the field of 31. And that leads us nicely into our HyperX post-race show, because the Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloudline of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com. And while we wait for Matt Taylor to finish his celebrations down in Victory Lane before he joins us here on RaceSpotTV, DJ, let's talk about what's next to complete this first half of the season. Our second Triple Crown race sees us go to Speedway, Indiana in a couple of weeks' time, and then we round out the first 9 races of the season with a trip to the Hungaro Ring. It's been a fascinating ride so far as we traveled the globe with our Lotus 79s.
Yeah, it certainly has, and I can't think of a better way to close out the first half of the season than by going to the Brickyard itself. Obviously, Arjuna, a place that holds a very, very dear place in my heart and always seems to produce some of the best action all season for these Lotus 79 machines.
Well, Wait no longer. We have Matt Taylor joining us in HyperX Victory Lane. And Matt, a difficult race. It clearly looked like the car was on a knife edge. How did you survive? How did you make your way to the front? We'll give Matt another go. Matt Taylor, do you have a copy?
Apologies, I can't hear anything at the moment. Really sorry about that. We'll
let Matt Taylor get it figured out, and instead we'll dive down to Tyler Graf, who comes across the line in second position. And Tyler, we talked about how this was a difficult race. Talk to us about that. Tyler Graf, do you have a copy? Well, looks like it's technical galore issues right now, but I think we've got Matt Taylor again. Matt, talk to us about that race.
I'm so sorry about that. That's apparently my stuff is set. That was crazy, but man, just nailed the strategy tonight. Came down lap 13, took tires, knew it'd probably need them for as hard as we were going to be racing, and from the warm-ups, I was able to save just enough that it didn't necessarily need to change them at halfway, and we were a little awkward on the fuel strategy there, but having the older tires mid-race really allowed us to jump the guys on the same strategy and just hang on for dear life from then.
Well, you came into this race fourth in the championship, but now with 2 wins on the season, your team is on a roll. It looks like you're getting on a roll as well. We head to Indy next for the second Triple Crown. What are you expecting in the Speedway?
I don't know. That's going to be interesting. We haven't raced with this tire there, and I think chaos is the best way to describe how that race has gone in the past. And I don't know if we're going to see anything different, or if we are going to see a 4 or 5 wide and a giant pack crashing coming into the finish. But it should be wild.
The one thing we know is we're going to get some sort of dramatic finish. That seems to very much be the norm. Talk to us about the season so far for MadWorks Motorsports, because you were part of the Avatar Order Racing domination last year of the HyperX team standings. MadWorks Motorsports has picked up the baton, and you guys have been the dominant force in 2022.
We've been running really well, and it's funny, you know, we seem to be able to get ourselves to the front, and getting all our cars across the line has not maybe been our strongest suit at this point, but you know, at least 2 or 3 of us will have a solid race, and we've certainly got strong enough pace to run up there, and I think we'll continue to build on this. It's been a fun season.
Congratulations, Matt, your 6th victory in your Retro Series career. I'm sure plenty more to come in 2022.
Thank you so much.
Matt Taylor joins us from Victory Lane, and we're going to step to the 3rd step of the podium where Ricky Harden was not hard in the wall. And Ricky, it looked like a fun race. It looks like a setup that you really had to wrestle around.
Absolutely, and I think we were in the perfect position there at the end of the race. Jumping to the high side of Matt, I knew it was going to be a little bit sketchy running that lane, and so I prepared for it. I think we were ready. I was pretty conservative going into 1, and then it seemed like Chris was trying to tuck in behind me or something. I don't know what happened. He just hit me in the right rear and ramped over.
Plenty of cautions. What do you think could have been different? It was a hot day. It was a difficult surface. Were the tires really that much of a handful?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of prepared for a lot of yellows, to be honest. And on that first caution, I took my tires. And if it had gone green, it would have been extremely hard to drive at the end. But with the yellows, it wasn't that bad. But, you know, when you don't have anybody in front of you and you try to go to that outside line, it can be sketchy.
Indy's up next. What are you expecting when we head to Speedway?
Well, I'm hoping for a win. I mean, nothing less. Indy is the biggest race of the year, and I felt like last year we were in a perfect position to get it and come into the stripe. Sage Karam got a little overambitious and turned us, and we got flipping through the air coming to the line instead of the win. We had the momentum to win. We were in the right spot. 2nd place coming out of 4, which is perfect.
Well, you're out for vengeance this year. Good luck, Ricky. Of course, all focus on the Speedway and all 3 of our series coming up. We'll see if you can get that 2nd victory in your Retro Series career.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Appreciate George and all of the people in the league that put this thing together. HyperX, Next Level, everybody. Appreciate y'all.
Ricky Harden from the third step of the podium, and we'll see if Tyler Groff has got things sorted. Tyler, do we have a copy?
Yep, I got you guys. You got me?
Yeah, difficult race. I mean, we saw plenty of cautions. We saw some... It was difficult to pass at the front of the field. What did it take with that 98 car when cautions really affected and mixed up the strategies?
Honestly, I think we were on the right strategy. We just... those guys that pitted on the first caution, their tires are just a little bit better than us, so we just kind of had to lay back and let them race. Glad we did, because they ended up wrecking, but yeah, they just had a little bit of the edge on the tires. I definitely think I had the better tires at the end. The rear ends of their cars were dancing around quite a bit, so I think if we could have gotten a 5-lap run there, I wouldn't be as bummed out. But yeah, I'm still very happy with second.
So what was your plan on that final run? You know, assuming we had gone green, it looked like Harden and Fowler were kind of fighting for second. What could you have done to get past them if there was no incident?
I mean, based on the practice races, I knew who ahead of me I could trust. So I basically just I knew I had to get them on the high side. You saw with Herrick and with O'Brien, when you got them onto the high side, and they can't arc the corner nearly as much, that's when the back end started coming around. So I just needed to get my nose stuck in there or get to a place where I can maybe pinch them a little bit. But with how squirrely the back end of these cars are at the end of these races, with how we have to either save tires or be conservative with the tires and kind of be there at the end, you got to be careful with how much you pinch, because with the back end of these cars being wider than the front, that can kind of cause stuff, as we saw at the end there.
Well, it seems like this 2022 Retro Series for you is either a top 10 finish or absolute shenanigans. How have you been feeling so far this year? What do you need for some of these races to have a little bit more luck go your way?
I think I need to avoid shenanigans to begin with. That's kind of been part of the problem in IndyCar as well. I've had the pace, just kind of no luck going along with it. These retro cars, it really feels like the race is a little bit more in the driver's hands, because unlike IndyCar, these are much more black and white to drive. You hop in, you go. Being on a smaller team isn't as much of a disadvantage as it is in IndyCar, where everybody can talk the entire race and trade information about what the car is doing and settings. So I think there's a lot more parity in this series, which I think results in just the closer racing and just more action up front.
Well, congratulations on your second podium of the year, Tyler. We'll see you in the Speedway in a couple of weeks' time.
Yep, thanks guys.
So that wraps up our post-race interviews, and I want to go straight to talking now again about Round 8 of this 2022 Retro Series campaign. We head to Speedway, Indiana. It's going to be an awful long wait till the end of the month, June 30th, same time, same place, 10:05 p.m. Eastern, 7:05 p.m. Pacific. But Matt Taylor brought up a very good point, DJ. We don't know what this tire is going to do when we go racing at the Brickyard.
No, we do not, and a little bit of an extended lap around there as we go around a little bit of an extended race as well. That tire strategy is going to be very, very key and crucial. We don't know how it's going to hold up around the Brickyard. We're going to have to see if tire strategy plays itself out like it did here today at Nashville.
And what a race it was last year, our first on RaceSpotTV, but you go into the history books, this race always produces the fireworks. So join us for the Butt Kicker Indy 250. It's going to be a blast. But with that said, it is time for us to say goodbye here on RaceSpotTV. Before we do so, we'd like to thank all that make this possible, starting with the title sponsor of the Lionheart Retro Series. Next Level Racing is an industry-leading cockpit and motion simulation manufacturer devoted to creating the most immersive experience possible for the global sim racing community. Take your racing to the next level and visit nextlevelracing.com. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com.
It's also sponsored by Butt Kicker. You're passionate about sim racing, but it always feels a little flat compared to the feeling of driving a real car. Now you can actually feel what it's like to drive a race car. Butt Kicker haptic hardware and software is easy to install and lets you feel every bump in the track, slip of your tire, and engine redline. The tactile feedback is so accurate and realistic, you'll be driving faster and having more fun than ever before.
MOZA Racing is revolutionizing sim racing with the development of industry-leading hardware and software products like their R9 direct drive wheelbase and GS steering wheel. Featuring zero-delay wireless technology and made from high-end materials, MOZA Racing delivers the precision you need to reach victory lane.
Gomez Sim Industries are makers of high-end esports equipment and controls, precision-built using nothing but the best materials available today. Passion and handmade craftsmanship drive each made-to-order build, creating a driving experience like no other. Visit GomezSimIndustries.com.
And it's not just them, but so many more that make this possible. To learn more at the partners of the Lionheart Racing Series or the 3 competitions the sanctioning body puts on, make sure to visit LionheartRacingSeries.com and stay involved on social media to keep up to date with the latest comings and goings of the Lionheart Racing Series. There's plenty more action to come here on RaceSpotTV and for Lionheart competition. Before we go racing in the Lionheart Retro Series, of course, all eyes will focus on the Speedway, where we'll go racing in the Lionheart IndyCar Series for the HyperX Indianapolis 500. Join us before that on Wednesday for our Indianapolis Race for the Pole, sponsored by HyperX. That will be on June 22nd. Same time, same place, 10:05 p.m. Eastern, 7:05 p.m. Pacific, all building for the big show, the 26th of June. A special Sunday presentation of the Lionheart Racing Series sees us go to the Speedway for what's going to be a treat. The Retro Series will then have center stage at Speedway, Indiana, with the Butt Kicker Indy 250 on the 30th of June, 10:05 p.m. Eastern, 7:05 p.m. Pacific. But for now, in what was a tumultuous Xtreme scoring Nashville 150 presented by MOZA Racing, it's a familiar name in victory lane. On behalf of RaceSpotTV, we'd like to thank you for joining us, where alongside myself, DJ Clark, Arjuna Kankipati, was on hand to call through all of the action. We'll see you at the Brickyard at the end of June. For now, it's time for the drivers to take a rest and gear up for the middle portion of the season. We congratulate Matt Taylor, a winner in the Lionheart Retro Series for the 6th time in his career.